Kokichi was in my lap as we were watching a movie. I was just petting his hair with one hand and holding his waist with the other. He seemed a little off today, but it may have just been another argument he got in with someone that he didn't win, or something.
Shuichi got up from the couch, making Kokichi have to sit up in the process. Kokichi groaned from the interruption and looked to the floor. Shuichi picked up the phone, and Kyoko was on the other line. She was telling him more information on the case they were given earlier this week. Kyoko was Shuichi's partner in the detective agency. Kokichi was not particularly fond of the relationship between the two. Kokichi has always wondered why Shuichi picked him. Out of all the people he could have chosen to love and to be with, he chose him. He didn't even think he was good enough for Shuichi, and knowing that he was spending a lot of time with someone else, this made his anxieties and paranoia skyrocket.
Sorry, Kokichi. I have to go to the office. Kyoko got more information on the case.
Shuichi said, grabbing his coat and putting his shoes by the door. Kokichi scoffed and looked up at him, trying his best to not break down and cry right then and there. It's not like he didn't like that Shuichi had a job that he enjoyed. It's more of the fact that his partner would probably be a better person for him to date other than himself. He didn't dislike Kyoko either. He was just too paranoid to want to get close to her, because that would mean she would be over more often and Shuichi would spend even more time with her than he already does.
Kokichi, are you going to be alright if I leave? You've been kind of off all day.
Shuichi said, giving a concerned look at Kokichi. Kokichi looked up from the couch with a smile. It'll be alright, Shuichi. Go and do what you have to do, he said, trying to give him the message that he was doing fine. He would have told Shuichi what was going on, but he didn't want to have to be something that gets in the way of his work, because that would make him more of a nuisance to Shuichi.
Alright. I should be home in a couple of hours.
He sounded concerned, but opened the door and gave Kokichi a worried look before he closed the door and left. Kokichi gave him a reassuring smile that faltered right when the door closed. I'm fine, he said quietly to himself, taking the blanket off the couch and wrapping it around himself, surrounding himself with Shuichi's scent. He inhaled his scent with a shaky breath before the tears started to fall down his face. He held himself while he shook in the blanket, clenching his fingers around his knees that were brought close to his chest. I'm fine, he said before bursting into tears. But he cried so much that he felt himself fall asleep on the couch. All of the thoughts he was trying to avoid and get rid of plagued him. All he could think of is how Shuichi has lost interest in him, how he isn't good enough, how he shouldn't be with him. He woke up with a gasp and found that Shuichi still wasn't there. With a sigh, he got up and looked at the clock. In a couple of hours? Yeah, right. He slowly walked up to the room they shared and tried to get to sleep. Not having Shuichi there with him only made the lonely feeling multiply. He felt himself start to cry again, and this time he was so exhausted that, after a few minutes of sobbing, he fell asleep clinging to Shuichi's pillow. Kokichi woke up to be in Shuichi's arms, with his face in his chest. He could feel the dried tears on his face, silently hoping Shuichi didn't notice. He snuggled closer to Shuichi. Although he wanted to get back at him and scoot away and go on about his day ignoring him, the warmth and comfort Shuichi brought to him was something he didn't want to give up. Shuichi started to mumble something Kokichi couldn't make out before. Shuichi woke up with a slight jump before groggily grabbing his phone. It was another call from Kyoko, telling him he had to check a report that was brought in this morning. He looked over at the clock and moved his gaze back to Kokichi.
Sorry, Kokichi.
Shuichi started, but Kokichi quickly cut him off. It's alright, Shuichi. Just go, Kokichi said in a colder tone than usual. He was tired of pretending that this wasn't driving him crazy. He didn't want to be abandoned by Shuichi, so he thought that maybe this would make him hate him, so it wouldn't hurt so bad.
Sorry. I know I've had to go in a lot this week. I promise I will get home early and we can finish that movie. Alright?
Shuichi said, pulling Kokichi into a hug before he got up to get changed. Kokichi was trying his best to not yell at Shuichi like he would with anyone else that made him feel this way. He knew it wasn't Shuichi's fault. His job was just very time-consuming. He didn't blame Shuichi for any of this because he genuinely believed it was his fault for feeling this way. He should just accept what Shuichi has to do for work and not make him worry about him at all. Shuichi left with a brief goodbye before the house was silent again. Shuichi stayed at home drawing, trying not to cry the entire time he was gone. 1 hour passed and it soon became 3 and then 4. Before he knew it, it was already 3 in the morning. He sat on the couch in the front room, glaring at the door. He hated to be lied to, and hated when people didn't keep promises. He just glared at the door, not because he was mad at Shuichi. He was just so anxious and paranoid that he was pushing himself over the edge by worrying. Shuichi opened the door quietly to not wake Kokichi, who he thought would have gone to sleep by now, only to find him sitting on the couch with a death glare towards him.
Kokichi?
Shuichi said, a little worried about all the words and behavior he's got from him recently. Kokichi didn't say anything as Shuichi walked over and sat next to him on the couch, causing Kokichi to get up and turn away from him.
Kokichi? What's going on?
Shuichi asked again, waiting for some kind of explanation. He was getting worried that maybe he overlooked Kokichi's behavior.
Why are you late?
He said with venom in his words, making Shuichi a little hurt knowing he was mad at him and he wasn't sure why.
Well, it took longer than I thought to file the report, and new reports came in.
Shuichi started.
Well, why were you late? You promised me!
Kokichi yelled, trying to tell himself it was okay. After one yell, all the tears came pouring down his face, sobs bursting through his throat. Shuichi finally knew what was going on. He rushed over to him and pulled him into a hug. Kokichi's tears got all over his shirt, but Shuichi was more concerned about making him feel better.
I'm sorry, Shuichi.
Kokichi said through his sobs, hands going to clench the back of Shuichi's shirt.
Why are you sorry?
Shuichi said, pulling away from him to hold his face in his hands, wiping the tears away with his thumbs.
I'm sorry for all of this. I should have told you. You should be disgusted by me. You should...
Shuichi cut him off, pulling him into a kiss. Kokichi's eyes widened before he leaned into the embrace. They stayed there for a moment, just holding each other.
You want to finish that movie? I could go get some ice cream if you want some.
Shuichi said, setting him on the couch and putting his blue blanket around him. Kokichi smiled and nodded. They sat on the couch and watched the movie while cuddling. After this, Shuichi made sure to always have enough time for Kokichi. From then on, he always made sure he put Kokichi before anything.
You're the most important.